Dr. Mckenzie, and thank you for acceding to the request to be interviewed as part of a series organized by the Communications Unit of the Presbyterian Church of Trinidad and Tobago. And today we are so elated to have you as one of our principals of Naparima College, who has been in education for more than 60 years, who has really given time and effort to improving secondary schools education for the Presbyterian community. Today we recognize that you are a recipient of a national award. The Roytech has named the library after you, and even the school where you served for over 30 years as an educator, Naparima College, has named the science building after you because you initiated science as one of the areas of study that will really move Naparima College into the future of education. Tell us a little bit of your boyhood days growing up as a Presbyterian in the church and in the school.
Well, I think that my father was a principal of primary school. He became a principal when he was young, straight from training college into Narbet Presbyterian School. Then from time to time he was transferred to other schools like San Francisco and Pinal and so on. But I would say that it was essentially rural assignments. And in those days, when we say rural, we mean really very rural. I found that that kind of life had its advantages in that you were really living close to nature, to the abundance of trees and birds and flowers and so on. And being close to nature in your early life brings you sometimes to the thought that whoever was the creator of the universe created abundance at all levels of creation. There's always more than what people need. There was a lot more mango trees than people need, all kinds of fruits and so on. And I think that idea impressed me a lot, because sometimes when you learn to appreciate the quietude of solitude, and in that type of thing, the Lord sometimes, even as a young boy, I read stories from the Bible, went to Sunday school, and I used to think about this person called Jesus and wondered really if Jesus was the Son of God in a very ordinary sort of way. And gradually I started from there to build up my impression of what might in later life be seen as an understanding of the Trinity. But I would say that because I was brought up under rural circumstances, nights were very dismal. Darkness surrounded us. You know, in those days you had the kerosene lamps. Now and then you would see a bull cart or a horse cart and whatever you have passing with flambeaux and so on. But nothing really. Moonlight nights were beautiful, but at the same time, every time I went to sleep at night, I longed for a swift break of dawn to come back to daylight. And I thought that under those heavy conditions of deprivation for stimulating experiences and friends' houses were far apart as another deprivation of rural upbringing, where you could just in the town areas, more urban areas, walk across, say hello to somebody, then come back by your house quickly. You know, parents were not allowing you to leave your house in the night, you know. So I would say one thing that really benefited me a lot from this kind of social starvation that characterized rural life in the early days was I was driven to reading a lot. What else there was to do? Play a few games, but then darkness descended upon us, and so on. But my father had boxes of books there. I would go and read books, and I read a lot of books that were much more advanced than my age. I read books written by great orators and so on, from former times and former centuries and so on. And I fell in love with the power of words, with the use of words, and how people influence others through the use of language. I eventually ended up at Naparima College and had to board in San Fernando and so on to go to school there. But it was an eye-opening experience to come to an urban area, live in the urban area where you had a lot of cinemas, distractions of all kinds, playing cricket in the road on Saturday, Sunday, and so on, and things like that, you know. But that's my early upbringing. And Naparima College, I spent 7 years there. I was what you call in those days a government exhibitioner. That means you get free secondary school for 7 years with books and everything, any school of your choice. But at secondary school, I started to enjoy this rural, urban area, which in contrast, met a lot of fellows who were cinema goers and so on. I might not have studied as much as I should in secondary school, but I made up for it in university because that was a different level of studies, you know. And you were surrounded by so much that was modern and highly developed. I did all my university education at different universities abroad. So I became accustomed to that. So I was able to manage my time well and not pay too much attention to what I shouldn't. And I did fairly well in my university career, eventually getting scholarships and all kinds of things to pull me through because I never had much money to go to university, but my older brother and myself, we decided to get out of this Trinidad and go abroad and try our luck abroad. Fortunately, both of us got bursaries and scholarships and so on. And then I ended up eventually doing about 5 degrees at different universities, and he also did his doctorate in the sciences and so on. And he became a professor. And that's a story of my educational career.
So, Dr. Mckenzie, from what you just said, you really enjoyed your boyhood days. It would be in Navet, where you grew up.
San Francisco Pinal.
San Francisco and Pinal, and that connection with nature and the appreciation for nature. I think some of our young people need to have that kind of appreciation for nature because many of them are so walled up in buildings and sometimes so focused on technology that they forget what beauty God has created. A second question I would like to bounce off from what you started to talk about in terms of your education. So you were educated at Naparima College. You studied there, and then of course you became the principal at Naparima College. Tell us a little bit about some of your memories, your earliest memories of Naparima College as an educator and then the administrator eventually.
Well, I joined Naparima College as I came there. And I enjoyed that very thoroughly, you know, because I thought that being a teacher and what we used to call them masters in those days at Naparima College was a tremendous achievement in my life, you know. So about NAPS now, I was a very much appreciated teacher. I remember that I was teaching Form 6 and I developed a reputation among students for my teaching of English literature at the A level, advanced level. And the students in the science classes now, they do maths, physics and chemistry, essentially. They went to the principal and begged the principal they want to do English literature in addition to their science subjects. I was Dean of Studies. So the principal called me and said, look, these children are begging you to come and teach them. I said, well, it's okay, but you'll put them up for the Shakespeare paper. They have 3 subjects in science already and the general paper, so put them up for the Shakespeare paper. And I was so shocked that 2 classes in science at A level decided, in addition to their load in science, wanted to do English literature with me. And if I'm late for a class, they would come and find me in the dean's office and pull me out and carry me to the class, you know. And we sent up 72 students in that year, and 70 passed. I thought that was a very significant thing. I don't know if there's any other school ever had students in science doing English literature.
Oh.
So I mentioned that. I don't talk about some of these things, but these things are exceptions in my early life as a teacher. And then the principalship became vacant. I had already done a master's degree in Queen's University in English, and then I had gone and done a Bachelor of Education where I graduated with honors in education. So therefore, I applied for the job. But at the time I had service, I was well qualified and I got the job. Not by a whole set of votes. People thought I was too young. I was 32, I think. So I was the youngest principal of a secondary school at the time, I think, when I got the job. And many of my teachers who taught me when I was a student there were on the staff. But strangely, those teachers never gave me any problem. They understood that I am the principal. I treated them well and got along with them. But sometimes you get problems with others. That is, the younger ones who thought they know more than they perhaps did really know. Because you see, leadership in the school, in any school, is a different thing from management. A lot of people don't know this. When you study behavioral sciences and the behavior of organizations, management keeps the ship running smoothly. But leadership initiates change, even though you may disturb seriously the equilibrium of the institution. So when you shake them up, then you could introduce your strategies for change. So I was not popular sometimes. I moved some of the people who were just repeating the same kind of thing year after year and getting not the result they should. And so when I make some sweeping changes and change staff and move people around, and I know that some of my decisions were not liked. But it was never my intention to be popular, but to do always what it was in the best interest of the students. So another record that I never talk about is after, during my 27 years as a principal of that school, I never suspended, never expelled a single student.
Oh, wow.
So although they did some wrong things, and they always straightened up. So I saw many boys who otherwise would have gotten expulsion in another school, but they got very good jobs in the government and elsewhere, live good lives and married and have children and who developed a good family. So I think that is something of a record I am proud of. Also, I noticed when I became principal that they had record cards for each student,
Oh, wow.
where when teachers punish people, get people punished, boys and so on, and they put down, in the back of the cards, they have a space now for a lot of their offenses and all kind of things. I said, look, I don't want anything like that written on anybody's card, just put in your marks. So when you write these things and an incoming teacher takes the class, he is prejudiced automatically about us.
Right.
So let us stop writing that. Then I started paying more attention to students. I used to visit every class regularly. I used to talk to the classes. I used to sign every student's report book at the end of the term. And then I used to study the marks and I would write personal letters to certain students in each class who are doing well and encouraging them, to do well. And I'm sure you could show your parents this letter when you go home, but it's a letter on letterhead which I sign each one personally and go in the classroom and deliver 4 or 5 in each class, making students feel important. And then I introduced in the school, I said, you have some intelligent fellows here, in this school. So I'm going to create a class where you're going to write O-level in 4 years. And I put in your Form 6 right away. So study, get your number of distinctions, you're going straight to Form 6 from Form 4. And that changed the face of things. And fellows say, look, what the principal is saying is true. So you get 2 chances at A-level to repeat for scholarships.
Right.
But my career as principal involved changing from being manager to a leader. And I led people who wanted to follow. And those who did not follow paid the price by not following, because you have to work with the principal, work with the parents and so on to push people forward. But gradually I had all the students on my side and all the parents on my side. So teacher resistance could not have stopped me. And the Lord always helped me. And those who stood up against me eventually had to submit themselves to authority. And I was not afraid of being authoritative, having done so much reading and studies, And a lot of people who think that they knew did not know enough. But one thing I must say, if you want to lead students, you must yourself be the perfect exemplar of the qualities of intellect, behavior, values, which you want your students to cultivate. You must be the model. They will then follow you, follow your leadership. In a way, you have to learn how to share what you're worth, to be like a parent for every student.
Well, on that note though, I think never in the wildest dreams of others they would think that you did not discipline students by expelling, because you are a no-nonsense person, very serious.
Yeah.
So you have made sweeping changes at Naparima College while you were there, especially in terms of your relationship with students and teachers, and I think that's commendable to note that you transformed a mindset and an attitude towards discipline that perhaps is so different from what we see today. So on that note, after your work at Naparima College, even while you were there and even after retirement, the service you give, the human service you give to Naparima College, to the church as an elder at Susmacha, you are heavily involved in community work. You also give national service. Tell us a little bit about your involvement in the community, and what are some of the organizations that you serve and give of yourself meaningfully.
Well, after a while, running Naparima College was not really that much of a challenge for me. I told my students, that I feel happy when parents and students tell me, other students, that they find that the boys of NAPS are a little arrogant and so on. They feel they're above the rest. I say, yeah, I want them to think so. I don't want them to think they like Tom, Dick and Harry there in the street. I want them to think they're better than them. They're better than them intellectually, in terms of values, in terms of attitude and conduct. But there's nothing wrong in knowing that. You don't have to be arrogant in a way that put people down, but you have an awareness that you are better. So a lot of people think that when you say something good about yourself, it merely really displays the fact that you understand yourself and you value your own qualities. So you say something good. If Brian Lara says he's a good cricketer, he's not boasting. He's saying a fact. So Tendulkar say he's one of the greatest cricketers in the world. They're not boasting, that is statement of fact. But you see, is when you have arrogance and it is not accompanied by intelligence or supportive data to what you are saying and things, then you make a fool of yourself. But a little touch of arrogance causes people to reach for more than ordinary people. So a lot of NAPS boys believe that they are born to go into different occupational and professional fields. And that's what happened. Everybody going to medicine, engineering, this, that, and so on. And even in the business world, a lot of them have been models of success. And they built the country, they helped, they hold key positions. So when you make people believe that they could achieve, they will go after it. So you have to be very careful what kind of remarks you make to students. And I should tell teachers plainly, you have to build confidence in the students. They must want to follow you because you exemplify the role and knowledge, skills you want them to have. Now, I did a lot of work. Huh? So when I started to talk about that, people will be shocked. People think that being a burden of a secondary school was a tremendous challenge and great burden. But so I was president of the San Fernando Rotary Club 3 times,
Right.
for 2 years for each time. So on. I was chairman of the Express Children Fund
That's right.
for about 30 years. I established the Trinidad and Tobago Heart Foundation in this country. Then I was head of the J.C. McDonald Home for about 30 years or something like that, and so on. But I never found that was demanding enough. You have to know how to manage your time. So I don't waste time. I use my time wisely. So now I tell these people, look, let's have a meeting. We're going to deal with 6 things. Let me stay on course, take the decision. And then, listen, I was put on a lot of cabinet committees in this
That's
country.
right, yes.
For example, I was the only principal ever in this country to be made a member of the Constitution Commission, which is the last one we had under Isaac Hayatari. Michael D. Steed was there too in the committee. Selvin Ryan, Hamid Ghani, and so on. Good. Then I was in committees like National Library Task Force to revise libraries, expenditures, and innovation. We, under Dr. Cooking was the chairman and thing, we introduced for the first time libraries for schools in secondary and primary and so on. After I came out of the award committee after 3 years, I got a call from the Prime Minister, who was in office at the time, and asked me if I would accept an award. As the person said, well, this is a Prime Ministerial award. It's not coming from the committee.
Oh, okay.
I, as Prime Minister, I want to offer you an award. So I found out, I said, well, what is the award you want to offer me? He said, well, Public Service Medal, Merit Gold, for public service in education. I said, okay. I cannot refuse you, Prime Minister. I have to accept it. You know, I got an award from the Ministry of Education. They had their 50 years golden anniversary. They made some big kind of award there. Good plaque and all kind of thing. I got an award from Ministry of Public Service, Golden Award for contribution to public service, all kind of thing. I got an award for Indian Arrival Day from somebody in San Fernando, the representative, was again a minister. Anyway, you see, I have all these kinds of awards, and just recently I got an award for Maritime Head Office. They chose one person in education, one in sports, one in medicine, one in business, and so on, 5 awards. But I was chosen for education. So I have all these kind of awards. But I always feel that in the giving of these awards, which are totally unsought by me, at all times, the Lord determines those awards.
That's right, yeah.
Take, for example, I left Naparima College, and I did them students give me some gifts, little minor things and so on. And the old boys had a little function for me in Gulf City, and I went to that, and I tried to make some good speeches, and I told them, well, look, thanks for allowing me to get a preview of some of the eulogies I might hear at my funeral, and so on, okay? But you know, after 30 years, you think that the administration of Naparima College, will, after I left here, could come up now and want to name the science building after me, or the work I pushed in the area of science and mathematics and so on. It's amazing to me. Because the intervening administrations never did that. And this present one should think of initiating that. It had nothing to do with me. It has to do with the Lord. Now, so fortunately for those who are looking into giving the award, I am alive. Ordinarily, I would have, most people would have died in that time, you know. So I'm saying that, and when I left Roytech, they gave me an ergonomic chair, I have it there by that table there. I said that was the end of that, you know. After about a month and a half, they wrote me a letter and say that the management committee of UV Roytech has decided that they're going to name the library after me. And of all the lecturers they've had since its inception to now, there's no other lecturer more worthy than I am of this, having my name associated with it.
Well, Dr. Mckenzie, coming to the close of the interview and having shared your journey from boyhood days, your education at primary, secondary school, as a student, then as a teacher, then as an administrator, and your community national involvement, you said something about your faith in God, and all that has happened in your life is by the will of God. So maybe now you can share your few words to the Presbyterian community and even to the national community in terms of your faith and how your faith has shaped the ministry that Christ gave to you, a teaching ministry and administrative ministry.
Whatever vocation you have chosen in life, especially teaching, you have to realize that it is not a vocation in which you would make a lot of money.
That's true.
Good. Next thing is this, that it calls for you to be way above your staff and your students. So they always see that the head presents an image of an aspiration, which is highly desirous to be at that level. You're always above them, staff. They can't come with foolishness and things with you. But you must also be very skilled in communication and articulate power. So on the spur of the moment, you could answer, respond, and let people realize that, look, in order to impress anybody, including you as the leader, they have to come better than that. Or else they're wasting their time. And that the majority of people over whom you have charge, they are supporting you. So when Jesus walked, he said, follow me. If you'll abandon the family, the boat, everything, go on. There's power.
So I think, Dr. Mckenzie, in a nutshell, after you spoke, you are saying to us as a leader, it means service, not position, but action. And also you must practice what you preach and be a good exemplar so that others will follow and come to know God as well and be able to serve humanity. Thank you so much, Dr. Mckenzie, for acceding to the request to interview, and I'm sure our viewers would enjoy hearing your story from childhood to administration, and of course now as you relax as a retired person but still serving the community through human service at J.C. MacDonald Home for the Aged. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you very much.